This is Joe,
Michelle,
Melissa,
and Shannon
with More Than a Sniff, where we talk about everything dog.
from training to nutrition.
from behavior modification to grooming, from vet visits to dog parks.
From getting to know us to having guests. Today we're going to talk about... So to continue on with our breed groups, we're going to talk about the Hound group and all they have to offer, but also from a training perspective, all about the Hound group. So, Melissa, you had a beagle recently, and tell us and talk to us about that experience.
So Susie, she was a lot. She was fun. She had a high scent drive. Obviously, she was a hound, but it kind of caused her to be anxious once she set track of something, and her owners didn't really know how to reel that in or how to call her off of scents, and it was just hard to walk around the neighborhood because she would just be kind of stressing herself out. She would start kind of almost foaming at the mouth, drooling. She would be trying to just smell everything and then she would just start baying and just go into town.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was to the point that they didn't want to take her anywhere.
Yeah.
And she jumped out of their cabin window because she caught a scent. So she was just no impulse control, if you will.
Yep.
So we kind of, with her, I really had to think like a hound as much as I could and be like, she is smelling things that I don't even know exist.
Yeah.
So we really went back to basics. And I had to be really patient and celebrate the little victories and be really strict on don't smell this. We gave her smell commands, like go track. It was go find.
Yeah.
It was the word that they would use.
Yep.
And they would play scent games at home. And then they would be done. So on walks, she was walking, and they would give her a correction for the smelling.
Yeah.
And she kind of was in work mode, and I had to be aware and translate that to the owners of she's smelling things, call her off of it.
Right.
Because they were like, how can she leave it? There's nothing there. Like, oh, but there is.
Yeah. There's
And
a lot more.
we're not going to punish her for smelling things.
Yeah.
Because she's always going to smell it, but to respond to us and to smell it and walk away.
Yeah.
Kind of was the motto.
Yep. What do you feel like your biggest takeaway from that whole experience of owners? Because they had owned beagles before,
Yes.
but just not one that's this intense with the smelling. So what would be your advice with people interested in beagles?
You better be patient.
Yeah.
And they take a lot of work.
Yeah.
Granted, like these people had some beagles that were not that beagly, if you will. Like they would smell games. They weren't as intense as this dog was.
Yeah.
So if you are looking into a beagle, be prepared for that.
Right.
Or if you're like a scent hound, be prepared that they are going to sense things that you don't even know exist.
Yeah.
And you have to be part of the pack to call them off of
Right.
things. They work as a pack.
Yeah.
So they have to respect you, or else you're going to, your recall is going to be non-existent.
Right.
At all.
Yep.
Even if you're part of the strong pack, the recall is going to be tough.
Yeah. Yep. Michelle, what's been one of the hounds that you've worked with?
You know, I was really racking my brain just now I don't have a whole lot of experience with hounds. I had some neighbors that were really, really good friends that had a bloodhound and a basset hound. And my biggest takeaway from them is they're really, 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 for lack of a better word, stubborn dogs. Stubborn is, in my head, I'm like, that's not really the right word. It really is more that they would rather be smelling stuff than listening to you.
Yeah.
They would rather be doing their own thing than they'd rather be avoiding you and doing what they want to do, I guess, is really what I'm looking for. Extremely dog friendly though. There are very, very few hounds I know that don't get along with other dogs because they do have to work as a pack like Melissa was talking about. But like actually me working them, the only ones I can think of are actually your clients that were those scent hounds, the two greyhounds. And then there was the wolfhound.
Yep. The Irish wolfhound.
Yeah. That was a long, long time ago. But even those were you dealt with more of the behavioralist side of those dogs than I did.
Yep.
I just dealt with the more of the walking and getting them out and stuff.
So you've done more sight hound stuff.
Yes. I'm trying to think if I've worked a scent hound at all.
Some dachshunds.
No. I've done a couple constellations, but I have not actually worked dachshunds.
Okay.
I was really racking my brain to think if I've actually personally worked as a scent hound, and I don't think I have.
Yeah,
but the sight hounds,
rare.
I have a few.
Yeah. It's they don't come along every day, but when they come along, especially in our world of training, it's a behavioral thing, and so you don't really get the opportunity to train from puppy up,
Right.
To experience that. I think it's a difficult group in general, and I don't think that they're overly popular. And I think that that they get titled, if you have a hound mix of some sort, that I don't really know that they're hound mixes as much, because they're just not as popular.
Right.
The great world of our breeding stuff, they're breeding toy beagles. And obviously their noses are being bred out of them. So they're just like little teacup things, which, as you think about the hound group and, people loving the looks of hounds, that's the biggest thing that draws people to them. And then breeding that smell, that scent out of them, is something that's real and up and coming. I think having a sight hound, have owned a sight hound myself, and also my parents had 2 whippets, which are sight hounds as well. And it's not any different than the ones that are using their scent to smell, as their recall is by far the most difficult to get and to stop that from working. And so on that note, I think that what people don't realize with dogs is you take an average dog and their capacity to smell, and then you take the hounds and you just times that by 10. I mean, they're picking up more than what the average dog is picking up, and that's why they use them for tracking, is they can smell, scents from weeks that are, who knows how diluted it is, and they are still able to track a certain smell. And I think that we just don't, one, give them enough credit, but also training them to live in our society is difficult to own those dogs if we don't give them the right out. And I think that's going to be a common denominator with all the groups, is being able to give them the jobs and the outs that they need, so that you can live with these dogs without having behavioral problems across the board. Shannon, have you had some experience with hounds, and even just coming into the vet clinic, of what you've experienced?
So my dog, Boston, was a sight hound mix, and so he had a lot of the instincts of the sight hound. Like running was his joy, and as a young dog, I would have to take him to run to get that out of him. And also with that type of dog, they have a really strong instinct of when they see something run by, they have to go chase it. And so even with all the off-leash work that I did with him, even as a 15-year-old dog, every once in a while, if he'd see a cat or something run by, he would have to chase it. And I think that's the major thing with these dogs for people that live with them in the city, is that you have to recognize that the instincts are like the core fiber of the dog's being. And no matter how much work that you do with it, it is really hard to get it to totally go away. If like barking is an issue with them, all kinds of things that you can work with them their whole life, and then they still will have a little slip up, And I think the other thing is, like you mentioned, dachshunds. People don't think of dachshunds as a working, hunting kind of a dog, and they get it to be like a cute little house friend, and they don't take into consideration that they're going to have these instincts to like chase and kill things for you, like that they feel like they need to do that because that's their job. And so from the veterinary standpoint, a lot of the hounds that are smaller hounds, I think people had more issues with because they didn't expect them to have those really strong internal drives that hounds are bred for hunting.
Melissa.
After I left the house and I was in college, my dad got this old dachshund. He was like 8 or 9. Didn't really know. And he was a terror. He was behavioral problems across the board. And
Yeah.
my mom was like, what did you bring home?
Right.
This dog's always getting into trouble. But it was fun once we would start hiding treats. And we found out this dog loves to go through like little tunnels, and we'd make agility courses out of PVC pipes.
Yep.
And then he'd get the treat at the end. He'd have to we'd hide it in laundry. So he'd finish the agility course and then go get the treat out of the laundry. If you did that like twice a week, he was great. He just wanted to sleep.
Yeah.
But that was his out, was going through pipes. And
Yeah.
we'd take him out to the hay barn. He would never catch mice. He was too old.
Yeah.
But he would be smelling and jumping and digging. And twice a week, that's all he needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the biting, the going to the bathroom in the house, the ripping apart things was
right.
gone.
Yeah.
But once we realized, oh, he's not just this unrealed man, which we're
Yeah.
like, oh, Buddy.
Right.
Which was funny. His name was Buddy, but he
Yeah.
was ornery. We're like, oh, he's old. He just wants to sleep on the couch. No, he was bored and getting into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was fun to kind of we realized that we were doing something wrong. And we're like, oh, sorry, bud. This is what you were really wanting. And so
Right.
it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's neat. The Basenjis are in the Hound group. And I've had a fair amount of work with them. And I think that, Michelle, I think really people would characterize the Hound group overall. I think that's common word is that they're stubborn. And I hear that a lot going into, oh, they're stubborn. And it's just, we just don't have the capacity to think about how they're working and what they're doing. I've had some opportunities to work with an Afghan Hound, and they're really not, if you look at it in terms of, in comparison to other dogs, in that, and just the Hound group in general, we could categorize them as not very smart dogs, because they just don't have the willingness to please us, like we would think that every dog would have that desire, but they just need their own out and how they function and work in that. Where if you can capitalize on those things, then it definitely becomes an easier way to live with them instead of having the expectations of them to, need us all the time, because they really don't. Shannon, did you feel that way with Boston overall?
That he needed me. Yeah. He was my friend, and so we were really on equal footing. I felt, because I got him as an older dog. He wasn't like a puppy that I raised and was my baby. And as if you think about your human friends, you're not with them all the time and you don't have to pay attention to them all the time. And he was a lot that way. Our relationship was, he could go and be by himself, and I would fill his Kong toy and he would drop it down the stairs. We had a big tall stairs, and he'd drop it down the stairs to get the treats out for hours and hours and hours and hours, and so he had little things that he'd like to do that he didn't need me. But then when we were together and, we have fun and have our friendship and that. So no, I don't think he was dependent on me. I think that he saw me as his cool friend. And when we wanted to go do cool things, that was cool. But he was fine to be by himself and entertain his own goals in life.
I didn't think I had this much to say about hounds, but apparently I do. I just had my first lesson with a new client of mine, and they have what the rescue said was a lab mix. Mm-hmm. It is most definitely not. It is a hound. It looks like a hound pit mix, which is very interesting. Yeah. But they've had labs before, and they're kind of struggling with this one. Uh-huh. And we had a good conversation that she's not going to be dependent on them. Yeah. It's kind of a teamwork relationship. Like, you hold up your end, she'll hold up hers, and there's a respect. Mm-hmm. But she's not going to be drooling at your feet, dropping the ball lab kind of style. Yeah. Yep. So it was really fun to kind of watch them be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're buds, we're teams. Right. Like, we're a teammate relationship here. Like, we have to hold up our end, right, or she's going to disconnect. Yeah. And they would talk about her. She would disconnect and just go sit behind the tree and smell stuff. Uh-huh. And I was like, yeah, hold up your end. And it was just fun because they texted me this week and they're like, oh, she's acting different. Yeah. Yeah. Just that switch of their personality and not getting offended by it. Yep.
Yep.
Because I think it's awesome. Like their stubborn independence in
Right,
a way is really
right.
fun
Yeah.
once you get it to work with
Yeah.
you.
Right. And I think having the right expectations with it
Yeah.
definitely changes things. There's so many weird breeds in the hound group that we probably will, if we see them in our lifetime, we'll be lucky. But most of the hounds you just don't see. They're either in conformation and showing in that world, or, and few are actually out working or hunting and doing what they were bred to do. And so I think overall the hound group is small and possibly even a dying group overall, just because they're not, they're difficult in general to be with the general public, but it's just, it's not something that the general public seeks out of, I'm going to go get a hound. They typically see them and fall in love with them. And then what they see are going to be the Basenjis and the Dachshunds and that kind of level of hound. So I think overall, just understanding the hounds and they're definitely not for everybody. And Michelle, what's the last words of advice you would have for anybody that was either has a hound or looking for a hound?
I really think that it's a big enough group, though, that if you're really interested in the look, to really to go through all the breeds and figure out which one is for you. My neighbors that had a bass hound, a bloodhound, those dogs were so different, so different. The bloodhound was definitely hound, he is all hound.
Yep.
100%. Does not, he just doesn't have that connection with them. He would much rather be out hunting, to be honest with you. Where their basset hound is completely the opposite. And even though he still has those instincts to smell and stuff like that, he really, really likes cuddling up on the couch with my friend and stuff. And she needed that, where her husband is definitely the more adventurous type, and he really, really loves the bloodhound and getting him out and going out and working him and stuff. So I think it is not a dog for everybody.
Yeah.
That is for none of them, sight hounds or scent hounds.
Yeah.
No matter what, both of those, you're going to have a harder time with a recall and a harder time connecting with your dog. But there's enough of those weird little things to look at, different of breeds in there, that you can find. If you really like that look, you can find what you're looking for. And then honestly, go to a good breeder and find out which puppy you want, or a rescue, and find out. I mean, here in Utah, we have a huge basset hound rescue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's what you want, they can find that perfect dog for you that's going to be cuddly, or it's going to be more like Boston, who can entertain himself for hours if you're that type of person. Because there are a lot of people out there that want that don't want their dogs connected to them all the time. So just I think this group, more than any of them, do your research on this specific breed you're getting.
Right. Yep, I agree. And just to give a shout out to the Basset Hound Rescue here, they actually turn out some pretty decent hounds, and the reason why most of the time they get turned in is because they're hounds, and people just don't know how to deal with them. And so
my friend, their Basset Hound came from the rescue, and they had already had their bloodhound, so I think they already knew what they were getting themselves into, having such a hard hound.
Yeah.
And the Basset, the rescue really did find them that specific dog that she needed, because she really needed a dog that was going to be more cuddly and want to be with her.
Yep.
Because Gus was not at all.
Yep. And the Bassets that I've worked with from the rescue, actually, I mean, it's been a great match, and I feel like they're active enough out there that they actually do a decent job, and I don't know. I don't know if you can ruin a hound, to be honest with you. I mean, they're pretty independent enough to not let you ruin them. I mean, I've had one that had some anxiety issues, and once she, got comfy in her crate, life was great. So it's pretty minimal on the Basset Hound side of things. But in general, I don't know how you can truly ruin a hound unless you just chain them up and do nothing with them. And then at that, you're really not going to ruin them. You just got to get them out and reset them. So they're pretty resilient, and they can take a lot before they actually will let a human being, I think, ruin them, if for lack of better words. So do your homework for sure. There's definitely some crazy hound breeds out there that could be fun. Don't just get set into looking at one thing or another, but do your research, and I would say definitely work with a trainer from the get-go. It makes it much easier owning a hound, to start with a trainer from puppyhood.